April 12th is a historic day for the space industry. On this day, back in 1961, Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space. Few years later, on July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first human to land on the moon's surface. This was an era of space race between US and Russia. But did you know, 19 years before all this, there was a Belgian boy who not only had a space travel but also landed on the lunar surface? Yes, I'm talking about Tintin, a comic book character created by a Belgian cartoonist popularly known as Herge. Tintin, whose adventures have captivated readers all around the world for several decades. The series stands as one of the most beloved European comics of the 20th century, translated into over 50 languages and selling over 200 million copies worldwide, and even inspiring a film adaptation by Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson. Herge Explorer on the Moon was published in 1950. The first part was retitled as Destination Moon, followed by Explorer on the Moon in 1954. So technically, Tintin made the moon landing in 1950. But how did Herge anticipated the lunar adventure with such precision, especially coming so many years ahead of an actual man in space, let alone the moon landing? Critics really like Tintin Moon Adventures because it pays a lot of attention to small details, like how things work in space. Some even call it a masterpiece for its uncanny accurate portrayal of lunar landscapes and space exploration. It's interesting that unlike other stories by Herge, this one doesn't have any alien, monster, or even big surprises. Some people think that Herge might have gotten interested into science fiction because of his friendly competition with his colleague Edgar P. Jacobs. Jacob started his own science fiction comic called The Secret of the Swordfish in 1950. It is also believed that Herge drew inspiration from 1870 novel Around the Moon and 1950 American film Destination Moon. To make his lunar adventure story work, Herge knew that he had to stick to real science. So he cut down anything that wasn't realistic and studied a lot about rockets and space travel. He got a lot of help from his friend Bernard Hellmans, who wrote a book about space called Man Among the Stars. Herge also wrote letters to Alexander Antonov, who has also written a book about space travel. He commissioned to construct a small model of the rocket, which he presented to Antonov for validation of its realism as a representation of a moon rocket. Subsequently, he utilized this model rocket for precise sketches during the production of the comic. The computer system in the Spodgy Space Center in Latvia resembles the UNIVAC-1, which is the first electronic computer used for business in US. The look of the Tintin's rocket to the moon is very similar to V-2 rocket, the first long-range missile used in World War II Germany. You can see the resemblance between the checkered pattern on Herge's rocket and the pattern on the V-2. Herge blends real science into the books, making the adventures feel genuine. From detailed spacesuits to atomic motors, using rocket thrust for navigation, the portrayal of weightlessness in space. The Tintin adventure shows a strong respect in scientific principles in space exploration. Who would have thought about the concept of viewing the Earth as a 3D sphere more than 50 years before Google Earth? Herge suggested that there might be water under the moon's surface, which until recently would seem like a fiction. Herge's humor adds to the enjoyment of the stories, bringing wit and charm to the narrative. His creation of lovable characters add to the depth of storytelling. Destination Moon and Explorer on the Moon are just not masterpieces. They also show how to balance between serious themes and light-hearted comedy.